kids, welcome to grade 10 once again with the other interesting chapter here about chapter number 6, that is reproduction ante pratyutpatti gurinchi chustam. Yes, as you can see, a small baby in the mother's womb. Exactly. Yes. Manam puttinappudu kuda ilage undevallam, right? So to know more about this concept and how this process of reproduction takes place, let's come and quickly watch the objectives. The objectives include the first, a small activity number 1. We'll see what is the activity deni gurinchi asalane telusukundam. Then asexual mode of reproduction. Asal asexual ante enti? Yes, we'll learn. Then vegetative propagation, artificial propagation, lab activity, sexual reproduction. Ikkada asexual annam, ikkada sexual reproduction annam. Then we'll see about reproduction in placental mammals, that is in humans. Ante manushullo manalo ee reproduction anedi pratyutpatti anedi ela jarugutundi ane paddhati gurinchi telusukuntam. Then in that especially ga male reproductive system alage female reproductive system ante purushul oka unde pratyutpatti oka vyavastha gurinchi alage streelo unde pratyutpatti vyavastha gurinchi telusukuntam. Then about childbirth, sexual reproduction in flowering plants anta. So flowers, plants lo flowers anedi manaki sexual reproduction ki important. So we'll learn that. Alage inka activity number 2 and 3 related to that same concept. Then cell division and continuation of life. Ante ee kana vibhajana anedi ela jarugutundi, alage life oka continuity anedi ela base avutundi ani telusukuntam. Then cell division in human beings, manalo ee kana vibhajana anedi ela jarugutundi, alage cell cycle. And activity number 4, we have the reproductive health, birth control methods, alage fighting against social ills. So what are these ills? So now quickly start the first concept, that is with activity number 1. See, we know basically reproduction is the only type of life process where there will be continuation of the species. Ante ee particular generation anedi continue avvali ante a copy that resembles us is nothing but we say it as the next generation. So mana generation, manalanti species idi manam kavachu or any plant or animal, the process that we use here is reproduction. So we say it is a kind of a process in which organisms generally undergo this type of life process where we can bring out another generation, another copy of our same type. Aithe this process of reproduction is actually they vary from individual to individual, organism to organism, and also basing upon the environmental conditions. Endukante prati organism, prati jeevamu kuda anni environmental conditions lo reproduction anedi jarpinchukodu. Aithe there is a particular conditions that are influencing them to undergo the process of reproduction. Ekkada daako enduku? Let's take an example of paramecium, right? Unicellular organism. Mari andulo ee reproduction ane process ela jarugutundi? Exactly, this paramecium undergoes splitting into 2 or more basing upon the environmental conditions, and danlanti oka 2 different copies ni adi reproduce chestundi, where the parent gets disappear. The parent, a parent అయితే 2 కింద డివైడ్ అవుతుందో, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ కన్సిడర్ దిస్ as paramecium. ఇది లేటర్ గా ఏమవుతుంది, ఇది 2 డాటర్ ఇండివిజువల్స్ ని డెవలప్ చేసి పేరెంట్ అనేది డిసపియర్ అయిపోతుంది, రైట్? బికాజ్ అదే కదా ఫిజన్ జరుగుతుంది అంటున్నాం. ఎస్, ఇక్కడే మనం బైనరీ ఫిజన్ అని కూడా అంటాం, రైట్? సో we even know this kind of binary fission also even takes place in amoeba. Well, అది డిఫరెంట్. సో ఇది పారామేషియం ఒక ఎగ్జాంపుల్ తీసుకున్నాం రిప్రొడక్షన్. కానీ తెలుసా కొన్ని కండిషన్స్ లో అంట the same paramecia, the parent of the either paramecia, they come together, they conjugate, and they exchange the materials that are responsible for reproduction, and they give birth to the young one, and more tolerant also. So this process is called as conjugation. Ante ekkadite mana parents anedi they come together and exchange the materials responsible for reproduction. So okay organism lo rendu rakala reproduction systems chustunama. Interesting, right? Exactly. So to know more about this, now we have to know the concept of reproduction that take place in different organisms differently. And generally we even say the time that is required for the process of reproduction and giving birth to the young one also vary to individual. అంటే ఆర్గనిజం కి కానీ మనం కంపేర్ చేస్తే ఈ రిప్రొడక్షన్ ప్రాసెస్ జరిగి ఒక టైం అనేది కూడా చాలా డిఫరెంట్ గా ఉంటాయంట. Yes, see, to understand this, let us start with the activity number 1. So what it is talking? It is saying about the formation of bacterial colony in milk. అంటే పాలల్లో బ్యాక్టీరియా వృద్ధి చెందడం అన్నమాట. Right. So let's see what is this. See, every day mama, when she tries to prepare the curd, now is she doing something different here? ఎప్పుడైనా గమనించారా అసలు కర్డ్ అనేది ఎలా ఫామ్ అవుతుంది? Yes, so here comes the technique, very easy. మనందరికీ తెలుసు. Just take 1 teaspoon of curd and mix it with 60 teaspoonfuls of milk and keep it in a bowl with a closed lid. అయితే ఇక్కడ మనం సెకండ్ సెటప్ కూడా తీసుకుంటాం. Where we have used in this first case of bowl a lukewarm milk. అయితే సెకండ్ సెటప్ లో మనం ఇదే 1 స్పూన్ ఆఫ్ కర్డ్ ని ఇదే 60 స్పూన్ఫుల్స్ ఆఫ్ మిల్క్ లో మనం మిక్స్ చేస్తాం. బట్ ఇక్కడ మనం కోల్డ్ మిల్క్ తీసుకుంటాం. సో వి సే ఇన్ కేస్ 1 we take lukewarm milk and in case 2 we are taking cold milk. అయితే in which we add 1 spoon of curd. Where here we are taking 60 spoons of this lukewarm milk and cold milk and here 1 spoon of curd. Right, now what we do? Keep the lid tightly over these 2 bowls and leave it aside. Now for every hour, you just go and check whether the curd is formed or not. Yes, so check for every hour in your observation and note down whether the curd is formed or not. Okay, manam final ga choose what you would find. Yes, there is formation of curd in case and in other case there is still the process of curdling is going place. Yes, now the curdling process lo manam telusukovalsindi enti nothing but the bacteria has increased its population. So this curdling process indicates what? Very interesting, that nothing but this bacterial population got increased and hence it made successful in turning the milk into curd early in one case, whereas in other case there still takes time. Now in which case the milk formed early and in which case it is taking time to convert the milk into curd? Yes, now these all questions we answer here that the process of reproduction is different in different cases. మనం lukewarm milk ని తీసుకుంటే మనకి curdling అనేది ఎర్లీగా అయిపోతుంది, మీన్స్ the curd is prepared faster. Whereas in the cold milk if you take and as you have kept the setup as we prepared like in case 1, it will take some time to convert into curd. ఎందుకు? lukewarm milk లో bacterial అనేది cell division fast అయింది and moreover the curd has formed. Fast అయింది అంటే ఏంటి? bacterial population పెరిగిందనే కదా. Exactly. So we say here now, the type of reproduction, the process of division of these organisms are different in different cases. So let's learn about this in depth, talking about the asexual mode of reproduction. Ante అలైంగిక ప్రత్యుత్పత్తి గురించి తెలుసుకోవాలి. Yes, here this is a process in which the only one parent is involved here for the process of reproduction, where there is no involvement of gametes but still there is a process of reproduction. So we basically see the definition of asexual reproduction as, or asexual mode of reproduction as, the process of reproduction where a single parent is involved and no involvement of gametes takes place. Gametes are nothing but the cells, the female gametes and the male gametes అనేవి ఇక్కడ ఉండవు. Only one parent మాత్రమే. Remember when we were talking before the activity number 1 about the example of paramecium, amoeba, అక్కడ ఏం జరుగుతుంది? బైనరీ ఫిజన్. ఒకవేళ ఇదే బైనరీ ఫిజన్ కానీ ఫాస్టర్గా జరిగితే, ఎక్కువసార్లు జరిగితే దాన్ని మనం మల్టిపుల్ ఫిజన్ అని కూడా అంటాం. So we say here there are different modes of asexual reproductions. Like first మనం డిస్కస్ చేసుకునేది ఫిజన్ గురించి. Yes, ఇప్పుడు మనం చెప్పుకున్న ఈ బైనరీ ఫిజన్ ప్రాసెస్. దెన్ బడ్డింగ్ అంటాం. Yes, remember 9th grade and 8th grade లో మనం హైడ్రా గురించి తెలుసుకున్నాం. Exactly, we'll learn that once again. fragmentation, then we have parthenogenesis, other type of asexual reproduction, and regeneration. This is also a type of asexual reproduction. So first manam fission gurinchi maatladukunte exactly manam cheppedi binary fission gurinchi. So here what happens, the parent, it gets splits into two different organisms and parent gets disappear. మనం ఇందాక paramation example చెప్పుకున్నాం. Likewise amoeba also has the same type of reproduction. ఇందులో parent divides into, we can say, splitting of the parent into two individual organisms and parent gets disappear. Now ఒకవేళ ఎక్కువ కణాలు కానీ ఇందులో ఫామ్ అయితే, when more cells are formed during this process, if while splitting into many cells, now we say the same process as a multiple fission. ఇప్పుడే మనం అనుకున్నాం కదా, సో ఒక పేరెంట్ రెండుగా డివైడ్ అయితే బైనరీ అంటాం, పేరులోనే ఉంది, బై మీన్స్ టూ. సో పేరెంట్ గెట్స్ divided into two, so we say binary fission. If many cells are produced in the same process, we say multiple fission. So organisms of these category show this kind of fission called binary fission. Then we have the next, that is budding. Yes, budding is nothing but this is a process, as we saw in yeast, right? Yeast lo type of reproduction choosam, where some bulges creates from the on the body of the organism. Some bulges are produced on the surface of the body of the organism. Like for example, if this is the yeast organism, so slowly there will be a budding, a small piece that develops slowly and after some stage, now it gets separated from the parent in organism and then it starts living individually and independently, right? So ఏమవుతుంది తర్వాత ఈ డిటాచ్మెంట్ అనేది పోతుంది, సో ఈ అటాచ్మెంట్ అనేది కట్ అవుతుంది, where it gets detached from the parent body and develops individually, and hence this is the type of reproduction that is shown in yeast. దాన్నే మనం బడ్డింగ్ అంటాం, ఎందుకంటే because there is a bud like structure that generates. అవునా, మొగ్గ అంటాం, బడ్ అంటే తెలుసు కదా, ఫ్లవర్ బిఫోర్ it gets blossom, then we have a bud stage. సో ఇది కూడా ఆల్మోస్ట్ అపియరెన్స్ అలాగే ఉంటుంది కాబట్టి మనం ఈ ప్రొసీజర్ ని budding అని అంటాం. This is one type of reproduction where a bud like structure develops and slowly bud ఏంటంటే it's nothing but a living organism coming from the parent's body surface. అది డిటాచ్ అయిపోయి ఇండివిజువల్ ఆర్గానిజం గా అది లైఫ్ లీడ్ చేస్తుంది. సో దిస్ ఈజ్ వన్ ఆఫ్ అన్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఫర్ yeast. So here we are going to see the third one called as fragmentation. See, the name itself have that the parent organism whichever exists here, it undergoes division into different pieces, different fragments, and here there will be development of some organisms from its body. So we say the parent organism gets fragmented and develops the new organism. See, this is one type of a sexual reproduction also can be taken place in this form. So we say some of the species like flatworms, even moles, lichens, Spirogera, they show these kind of reproduction, a type of asexual reproduction. But basically algae, fungi and land plants lo kuda ee type of fragmentation chustam, where a parent exists and it gets divided into different fragments like this. So these are different organisms, they get divided from the parent. So emotni automatically the parent won't exist even in this case also. So this is one of an example where a parent organism, now it gets divided into different fragments, into different pieces and gives birth to the other organisms, where anti case emotni here also the parent is getting disappeared, like it happened in fission, binary fission, multiple fission, avana. So likewise even this is also said to be a form of sexual reproduction anta. See, konni lower organisms la kan chustunte like flatworms, moles, lichens, Spirogera, right? ఈ ఆర్గానిజమ్స్ లో జనరల్ గా ఈ టైప్ ఆఫ్ ఫ్రాగ్మెంటేషన్ రిప్రొడక్షన్ అనేది జరుగుతుంది, అండ్ హెన్స్ ఇన్ సమ్ అదర్ ల్యాండ్ ప్లాంట్స్ లో కూడా దిస్ టైప్ ఆఫ్ రిప్రొడక్షన్ టేక్స్ ప్లేస్. ఈవెన్ యూ కెన్ టేక్ ఆల్గే. Fungi, because Pyrogera is nothing but a type of fungus, and algae where also shows this process of reproduction, and hence this is said to be as fragmentation. Then we have the fourth type of asexual reproduction called as parthenogenesis. Interesting, why? Because generally manaki em telusu, always a fertilized ovum, or we say a fertilized gamete, helps in giving birth to the young one, and hence it develops ova such that they can undergo the process of fertilization and then giving birth to the young one. But ee parthenogenesis ane process lo chinna twist undi. It's nothing but, see, if you divide the word itself, partheno, it's nothing but virgin, right? Ante enti unfertilized ovum anta, right? Where genesis is nothing but production. Ante em ardhamaindi? What you are thinking is the right answer, because here the virgin gamete helps in the production of a new organism. Ante మన biological terms లో చెప్పుకుంటే an unfertilized gamete gives rise to the young one. Interesting, right? So we say in parthenogenesis, right? So from an unfertilized gametes, there will be production of the organism. See, basically in sexual reproduction, the haploid gamete develops to form a diploid zygote. Remember? So we say haploid. This is a special type of reproduction. What happens, basically in some organisms like algae and fungi, example Spirogera once again, and even some organisms like ants, bees, wasps, right? So we say ants, bees, wasps. In these organisms, the fertilized ova, they always develop into female anta. And whereas, the unfertilized ova, they always develop into male. And other interesting thing, the sperms are produced always from the mitotic division, whereas the ovas or, the single ovum are produced from the meiotic division. Mari ippudu mitotic division enti, meiotic division enti? Yes, soon you are going to learn about this divisions, that is under cell division. Remember? We are going to learn how this mitotic and meiotic, meiosis, all these divisions of the cell takes place during the childbirth. Well, so the important thing is that fertilized ova develops into females, develops into males. And other point we mentioned, always the sperms are produced through mitotic division, whereas ova or ovum, single one, singular form, plural form, are produced by meiotic division. Here we have a special concept called as parthenocarpy, right? Now parthenocarpy, what is this process? See, nowadays we are able to develop some seedless fruits, right? Like example, watermelon. Watermelon, you can take tomato, these are, and even some papayas, yes, where some contain seeds, but in some papayas there are no seeds. And even though the fruit is very tasty, and we are able to do the process of this kind of parthenocarpy. So we say ovary develops into fruit without any presence of seed. So, this type of process of fertilization, ante indulo there is no other process of fertilization, only ovary develops into a fruit. So, this kind of process of fertilization is said to be as a parthenocarpy. అయితే ఇలా జరగడానికి కొన్ని ఫైటో హార్మోన్స్ అనేవి రెస్పాన్సిబుల్ అంట. సో అందుకే ఏమంటున్నారు, వాటర్ మెలన్స్ కి, పపాయాస్ కి, ఇప్పుడు చెప్పిన టొమాటోస్ కి కూడా this kind of parthenocarpy system, or we can say even fertilization, started induced. So we are inducing this kind of process in these fruits also. Now, so this phytohormone is responsible for this process of parthenocarpy. Now here we have a small test. Now collect information as much as possible in which fruits This kind of parthenocarpy process is taking place. Now gather some information and try to prepare an article and display in your class. Well, and discuss with your friends and teachers also about the information you gathered. Well, this is about parthenocarpy that takes place even in the process of parthenogenesis. So parthenogenesis lo em anukunnam, mainly nothing but the fertilized gametes eppudu kuda organism ni develop cheyadaniki responsible avutayi. Kani ikkadiki vachesariki unfertilized gametes, they give birth to the young ones. That is a speciality of the parthenogenesis type of reproduction. So here we say the last type of asexual reproduction, that is regeneration. Yes, can you see the name? Yeah. Remember about the process of fragmentation? Now here don't get confused, because see, many organisms, they develop the young ones from its body parts, right? And we have seen one of the example like fragmentation, where parent organism body ni different pieces kinda divide chesesi okokka body part kuda oka different organism form avutundi anukunnam, right? Likewise, in regeneration, if you take one of the parent body, now every part of the body gets divided into some pieces. Divide aina gani, okvela cut chesina gani, different pieces kinda manam danni divide cheste 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, as many as pieces. Now each piece is capable to develop into an individual organism. Can you imagine this? Yes, that is true. Ante body of the parent, if you divide, cut into pieces, now each piece oka separate organism kinda develop ayipotundanta, right? So do you think now this kind of regeneration is somewhat similar to fragmentation? Now try to find the answer. We'll discuss about this at the end of this unit. Well, so you have lot of time to know the difference between the regeneration and fragmentation, and wait for my discussion till the end. Now here we have to mention the example of planarians. Yes, now if you just observe how we were discussing about the fission ane oka type of reproduction. Exactly, this is what the fission we were discussing that takes place in paramecium. Yes, you can see the parent, we can say a single paramecium organism, it divides into two and gives rise to the next generation. And next we were talking about budding ane process lo kuda chuste manam em తీసుకున్నాం, yeast example anukunnam, right? Now yes, this is how the budding process takes place in yeast, observed under microscope. Alage manam maatladukuне dantlo fragmentation gurinchi kuda type of reproduction, where the parent undergoes different sections are divided into different fragments, and each and every fragment is developed into an individual organism annam. Gurtunda? Yes, so this is how you can see, chusnara ikkada different fragments unnai, ante indi pieces kindana divide ayi untunnai. Yes, this is what we say fragmentation in Spirogyra. So Spirogyra organisms తీసుకుంటే వాటిలో జరిగే ఈ ప్రత్యుత్పత్తి లో ఒక టైప్ ఏంటి అంటే fragmentation. So each part, each piece or each fragment develops into a separate individual. Then the fourth one, we were talking about the parthenogenesis. Exactly, this is how we say, in the seedless fruits, this process of parthenogenesis takes place. Then absence of the production of fruits now taking place with the absence of seeds. Seedless, so seedless fruit ni develop chese oka process ni dan parthenocarpy ane oka process gurinchi chadivam. So this is called parthenogenesis. And alage we were also discussing about the regeneration. Exactly, this is one of the process of reproduction that takes place in planarians. Like as you can see, the body which is divided, each piece develops into the different organism. Exactly, so this is what is going on in planarians also, the type of reproduction danne regeneration antam. So these are the different types of reproductive forms that takes place in various organisms as we have seen.